A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went towards the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed, for as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. The Gospel of the Lord. I don't know if it's just me, but the men don't appear to come out very well in any of the four Gospel accounts. And they come off considerably worse when we read the lines, "They went home." I mean, this is hardly a strong statement of faith. They appear to be packing it all in and giving up on this great Jesus project. And it's quite a shocking declaration of disbelief. And yes, they are in shock. They have just lost everything. The one they had loved, this man they gave everything up to follow. Jesus had been snatched from them in the cruelest fashion, executed as a criminal. He was their inspiration, their teacher and Lord, and they dared to call him friend. Where now was the kingdom amidst all this pain? Where among their crumbled dreams? And how might we have reacted in similar circumstances? Maybe the women come off somewhat better than their male counterparts. Mary, we're told, remained there weeping, hoping for an answer. She, above all, is the consistent and faithful witness. The answer would come in the simple and intimate uttering of her name, a reminder that resurrection has to be experienced personally. You see, we must hear our name pronounced, must hear ourselves addressed and regarded by love before we can recognize this Christ in our midst. The women, I think, get it. In the other gospel accounts, they are waiting something, seated opposite the tomb after the stone has been removed. Theirs is an attitude of expectation and hope, one of need and desire. Mary, considered a sinner, is the very first to get it, the first one Jesus appears to. And this is no coincidence, no accident. Once again, drawing near to Jesus brings life and healing. And it's often the people on the edge, the ones on the very bottom who need it the most, who long for it most profoundly, whose vulnerability opens a channel for healing. You see, those who experience resurrection are those who truly need resurrection. It's the people at the bottom, those who struggle to survive, the homeless, the refugee, the despised and marginalized, people who are wondering where their next meal will come from, who long for and experience resurrection. And so, in the time and world of the Gospels, where women were voiceless, powerless, the resurrection is first experienced and joyfully announced by these women. And surely there's a message here for our contemporary church. The women are there before, during, and after the resurrection. The women remain waiting, longing, and insisting on resurrection. They refuse to accept defeat. That's simply not their way. And perhaps women, more so than men, have long realized that death is not just physical dying, but going to the full depths of things, hitting rock bottom. And in this sense, we all go through many deaths in our lifetime. Someone once described them as tipping points, opportunities to choose transformation. Resurrection, you see, isn't just Jesus' personal victory over death. We all share in this great victory. We can begin resurrection today, right now. The resurrection is not Jesus' private miracle, but it's the new shape of reality. It's the new shape of the world. It's filled with grace, filled with possibility. It's filled with newness. And every time we choose faith over cynicism, hope over despair, service over selfishness, life over death, every time we pick ourselves up after failures and loss, in these very moments we've been resurrected. The many occasions when we refuse to become negative, cynical and desperate, we have experienced the risen Christ. We don't have to wait for it later. It's always now, the now that cuts time like a blade. As I said, it tends to be people like Mary Magdalene, people on the outside who experience this daily miracle. The empty tomb tells us that nothing has to degenerate into death anymore. It's not simply a miracle story to prove the divinity of Christ, something that makes Jesus the winner. It's a storyline that allows us all to be winners, all of us, without exception. Yet the only people who experience this are those who know, love, and expect right now the ever and eternal resurrection of Christ. There is no eternal death when we embrace this mystery of infinite love. I have come that you might have life, life in abundance. Why do we live our lives as if this weren't true, behaving as though there were never enough? It may have been, I think, St. Francis who said, the only way you can hold on to joy is to consciously give it away. And once we stop being channels of love and joy, we lose it ourselves. Perhaps that's why we have so many sad and embittered people in our churches today. As Jesus reminded Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe this? And if you do, it changes absolutely everything. Those who witness the risen Lord are indelibly marked by joy and peace. And in these difficult and terribly challenging times, may we always have the ability to see the signs of light and hope, the strength to pick up those who have grown weary on the way, and the generosity to share with those in need. The gospel message today is simple. Either everybody wins or nobody wins. And it's well worth reflecting on the challenging words of the Franciscan writer Richard Rohr. If God can use a woman with 7 demons like Mary Magdalene and a murderous zealot like St. Paul to be his primary witnesses, then we had better ask, what were they witnessing to? It was not just some new ideas. It was a new lifestyle, a life energy, a worldview that really believed in liberty and justice for all. Brothers and sisters, I wish you all a joyful Easter, and may you all have your own deep and personal experience of the risen Lord. And I leave you with a poem that for me captures this very resurrection attitude. Messenger by Mary Oliver. My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy dug-up clam, telling them all, over and over, how it is that we live forever.